Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, we're going to learn a little bit more about Swingvision from the man who created it himself, Swupnil. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So I want to welcome Swupnil from Swingvision, the president, the CEO, the head Swingvision man is with us today. Welcome to Tennis Spin, Swupnil.
Thanks for having me, Harry. Super excited to be here. And I should say, I didn't make it myself. It's a team effort, and our team's incredible. But we're a small team, so I think it's impressive what we've done with a very small team.
But is it your brainchild?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. My co-founder and I, Richard, we came up with the idea. We were both tennis players back in the day. Back in college, actually, we met when we were undergrads at UC Berkeley, just down the road. And we just wanted a way to track our game, and there wasn't a solution out there that was really affordable. And wanted to just make it exist. So we started Swingvision.
So you guys must be pretty smart, because it's like nothing's out there to track my game, so let's just do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's like looking back now, it's so ridiculous, this idea that like you could have all this amazing information and technology just with your phone. And even to date, we've been in the market for 3 years. Nothing's really even close to this. So yeah, I think we've built something really special. But it was just kind of a good convergence of backgrounds. Richard's a really sharp and solid engineer. I had my experience in autonomous driving and statistics, so that all kind of worked together really nicely. And of course, we both love the sport, so that's really important to have the context there. But yeah, we just kind of had sort of like the special ingredients that we needed to make this product, and it just worked out that we met each other and assembled a really solid team as well to, really take this to market in a way that everybody can use it and access it.
So your background is in what? What did your degree in again?
Well, so my undergrad was in math, stats, and econ, and then I got my PhD in statistics at Columbia. So I was originally trying to become a professor, but got lured into industry. I interned at Tesla a couple times on their autonomous driving team, really enjoyed it, and then joined them full-time, was there for a couple years full-time, and then started to learn more about computer vision and how you can use cameras to do all these really cool tracking things. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, like we could maybe build something for the iPhone that could just track my tennis game, and kind of all naturally progressed there.
So who wrote the code?
All of us, Richard and I did a lot of the coding in the early days. We made kind of the first version of the app. Over time, we expanded the team. We have really amazing iOS engineer, Shannon. I have to give her a shout out. She codes everything. Ooh. The watch app, the phone, the iPad, the Mac, it's all Shannon right now.
Wow.
So it's really incredible. She's done everything. And then our machine learning team, has been spearheaded by Adit, who also went to Cal, actually. He built out so much of the machine learning. And a few other folks on the team have helped as well. And we have an entire team of folks who just like label data and label videos and all that. So it's a big operation, but I'd say, those two are the big coders, I would say, that have contributed the most to date. And we've brought on some amazing additional engineers as well. So team's growing.
So you and Richard said, okay, I want to videotape myself and I want to see how our stats are, right? How long before you started coding before you actually got something up?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So we were both working full-time on our jobs. This was like late 2018, early 2019.
You were working too?
Yeah. We were kind of starting to build Swingvision on the side. We raised some money from Andy Roddick and James Blake. This is all before we left our jobs. Then once we had raised a small amount and we felt like we could actually hire a few people, then we left our jobs in the summer of 2019 and started kind of working on the actual computer vision tracking and doing all the AI on your phone. And actually it took us about 6 months until we made the first version. So we launched the first version pretty quickly. And it wasn't good in the beginning. It wasn't accurate at all. So, special thank you to everybody who used it in the early days, because it just was not accurate. But, as we got more people using it, the AI got more robust. We saw all these different players, different playing styles, lighting conditions, different phones, like all around the world. And as we got more diverse footage, the AI got more robust and then started to get more accurate. So, it really took about a year and a half until we really started to see the app performing really well in like a lot of scenarios. But that first year and a half was just a grind and answering a lot of support emails, which we still do, but iterating on the machine learning and the AI and just making it more and more accurate. Like the stats, really just getting it as accurate as we can. And it's kind of going to be a lifelong effort to make it better and better. But I mean, it's just substantially better today than it was 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've seen it grow just in the time that I met Nikhil. Man, it's been like 2 years, and like we're talking about calling lines now. We're talking about on the watch doing how fast your serve is. I mean, the sky's the limit for this app, right?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we never imagined it was going to be able to do all these things. Like we initially built it just like to get some basic stats of our game. But yeah, now we can call lines. We can generate highlights of your game automatically. You can review a 2-hour match in like 20 minutes. I mean, it's just incredible what this can do. And as you said, going forward, I mean, you can imagine where this is going to go. It's just going to be like fully automated. It's going to keep score for you. It's going to do all these things. And it's just really bringing that professional experience to everybody is really kind of the end goal. And so we're excited to see where this goes. We've just been kind of following what our customers tell us they want us to do, and we just kind of go in that direction. And this is where we've arrived so far.
So as a customer, I want everything from this thing. I want you to keep score for me because I don't want to freaking keep score, right? I want it to call lines for me because I don't want to argue with that dude. You want
it to coach you?
Right, exactly. Tell me what I'm doing, So I think that's where I think we all would like the experience to be.
Definitely.
Right? So
yeah, and that's what we're pushing on, and we're just making like small improvements towards that. Like for example, with the auto scoring, you can actually do this in beta now. So just send us an email if you want to try it out. But you can basically record your match and then input the final scores like 6-3, 6-4, and then it'll fill in all the details of who won every single point. And so you'll get match stats about your game. You'll get a scoreboard that updates every single point on your video. And so that's kind of the first step towards that. And then eventually we'll actually keep score in real time and it'll announce it, right? But these are some of the intermediate solutions you provide, which still provide a lot of value in the interim. We don't go like straight from 0 to 100, but I think a lot of these things that we built in the interim are great. And I think with line calling, it's the same thing. So we want to get to a point where it will call the lines automatically for you, just like you see with Hawkeye Live. That's really the experience we want to get to. But in the interim, you can, challenge line calls from your watch. You can see a slow motion replay. It'll zoom in and show you whether it's in or out. And that's already so much better than what exists today, right? I mean, that's incredible. So, that's kind of always been our thinking is like, let's try to ship something as fast as it's ready. As soon as we think it's available and it's going to provide benefit to our customers, we just release it. It's not going to be the total end solution. That's okay. But over time, it just improves. And we're going to eventually get to what you're dreaming of and what we're dreaming of. So
what's the begin game? Let's say, do we get into like the 12 and unders to start, maybe go into the 14s and then the 16s and then Orange Bowl and then Pro? Like, is that where we're heading?
It's interesting. I mean, that's how we thought that the product would develop and the customer base would move. But actually, we resonated most with adult league players, actually, initially. So I would say kind of like the core customer base today is like 25 to 55 years old. And we've done the best with them. These are kind of like weekend warriors playing on the weekend. Maybe they're playing in adult league matches, maybe USTA 3-5 to 5-5. That's kind of been our bread and butter so far. We're starting to get more into the juniors. One thing that's really interesting and challenging is that it's the parents that are making the purchasing decision, right? I mean, you have to pay for our product. So like the kids don't necessarily have the credit card that they can just swipe and like access this. They need to get the approval. So it's been interesting. We kind of have to get to the parents, convince them that this is valuable for them and their kids. And then that's how we've been now starting to get into the junior market. And so over the last year, we've seen a lot more juniors starting to use this. And as we go into next year, there's going to be a lot of tournaments in the country that are going to officially be recording all the matches at the tournament with Swingvision. So, we're slowly kind of getting to that point. And then, as you said, long term, who knows? Maybe this could go to the pros. I mean, of course, you have Hawkeye at the Wimbledon and the US Open, but there's so many tournaments that pros play where there's no electronic officiating, barely any video capture. I mean, you watch some of these like even ATP events where it looks like you're watching like a video from the 90s. Like the camera quality is just not good. They have maybe like 1 or 2 linesmen. It should be so much better. And I think we can serve that market eventually. That's not the focus today. I mean, our focus is really kind of grassroots tennis, everybody who's playing. But as the technology improves, as it gets better, will get into that pro space. And a good example of that is the college space. So we have over 60 Division 1, Division 3 teams. That wasn't possible when we first launched, but now the product's gotten, accurate enough for those college teams. So, over time, as the product improves, we will kind of move our way up the market.
Got it. So it might not be this way, it might be this way.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's probably what it's going to be. Initially, it's going to have to kind of encompass more of the grassroots level. We will move up a little bit, like within college, but I think it's going to still be a while before we go to the pro space. I think that's still like a few years out. But we move fast. Like 6 months at SwingVision is like 4 years anywhere else. So I feel like we just move really fast. So it's going to come sooner than you think, but still a lot of work to do to get to that point. Yeah.
So I want to cover a little bit about some growing pains that you've had, let's say, in the last year, because I've been fielding questions too. There's been some comments when I use SwingVision. I know, guys, I know. So we're going to ask the man right here.
All right.
Okay, so the one thing that I've been having some trouble with is, like, let's say the two balls are on my side, but it's that person's serve, and I go like this to the other side, and it thinks that that's a point starting. Is that still an issue?
I think that should be less of an issue now. The way we look at that is that's kind of an edge case, and the way this kind of works with AI is you just need to have more examples of edge cases. And so, most people, they feed the ball underhand. Now you're feeding the ball in overhead. You're special. Not everyone does that, but a lot of people do it, right? And so I think it's basically just a matter of getting more examples. We need more people like, hey, we're going to do this, and once we do that, then we're fine. But I think that's really what we got to get to. And so as we get more examples of these edge cases, we'll be able to handle that. We'll recognize, no, that's just a feed. You're just tossing the ball back. You're not actually like starting the point. So yeah.
And then the other thing was the accuracy of the lines.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you guys are so precise that it just, this ball hit here, top spin, that serve hit there, underspin, flat,
totally.
And then so the outs are kind of like sometimes iffy, and because people will say, oh, that was in, but then the SwingVision showed it as being barely out sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, so it's going to happen. It's not 100% accurate. Our accuracy right now is about 95%. For most shots. And then if the ball lands within 10 centimeters of line, we're more than 90% correct there, which is actually better than humans. So for really close calls, we're actually better than humans now as of like this summer, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, there's a lot of easy calls that we still get wrong sometimes. There's still about a 5% of edge cases. But like I said, it's just a matter of getting more examples of those, understanding what they look like, what are those scenarios. And, we have such a big customer base now. We'll be able to solve this. It's kind of like a matter of when, not if, I would say.
Right.
But even just in the last year, we've made some really big improvements. I mean, these accuracy numbers were not in the 90s like a year ago. So it's been some incredible innovation from the machine learning team at SwingVision.
That's awesome. No, I've seen it slowly getting better. The things that I've seen that obviously even a person would make the mistake on is kind of when you stand in front of it. So you make the shot, but then you're standing in front of, like the ball bounces in front, but your body's in the way. I mean, it's just going to have to take a calculated guess as to where it's going to fall.
Yeah. So you're going to have those situations where maybe the ball is going to be blocked. And it's another one of those cases where it's just kind of, the cool thing about AI, at least today's version of AI, is that if you just have more examples of that, then you can actually make the right guess, I guess I should say. And so when we go out and we like validate our data, we'll actually put like a bunch of cameras around the court and we can actually see what actually happened. And so even in those cases where it's like blocking the ball, we actually know what's happened. And so it's just a matter of getting more cases like that. But I think the AI will get to a point where like even if you're blocking the ball as it's landing, you'll actually get it like close to 100% accurate in the long term. But that's just not a case we have prioritized as much right now because it's rare, but it does happen,
Let's talk about something that's happened to me a few times, where the camera just stops. Like we hit record, we set it up, we walk away, and then we come back to it, and it's like, it stopped recording. What happened?
So there's a couple things there. I mean, First of all, you might think that it stopped recording, but it didn't actually. This is because we actually make the screen completely black. And the reason we do this is actually we found that it saves a lot of battery life. So this was like a big discovery that we made earlier this year, actually, which was like, oh, if we make the screen black, it actually gives you like an extra 20% of your battery life, which is like substantial. And so that's one thing we started doing was like within 10 seconds after you start the recording, kind of like dim the screen and make it all black. You can't even see like what the camera is showing. But there is a button on the screen, so if you kind of tap it, you can like check the camera if you want to, you can end the recording and so on. So that's one change. You know, people shouldn't be too worried if they see that. It is still recording. Now, there are situations where the recording will actually just straight up end. And that's because of interruption from the system. And there's not much we can do too much about that. So, for example, if your battery is really low, like you're close to 1% and your phone's about to die, or you get a phone call from somebody else, or your phone overheats, you know, in those situations, iOS is basically telling us like, hey, you got to stop recording right now. We need to shut off everything and make sure this phone is like staying on as long as possible. And so when we get that kind of a message, we just have to shut it off. Now, there are things you can do to get around that. So especially with interruptions, the best is to set up focus mode. So this is in the latest iOS. You can have it set up so that it'll turn on focus mode whenever you're using Swingvision automatically. Oh. It's really cool. And so we have this on our website. You can look for it. There's a guide that talks about setting up an automation. And it's done through Siri shortcuts. And it's super cool. So like as soon as you open Swingvision, it'll just turn on essentially do not disturb mode. And then it will prevent any sort of like notifications from interrupting your recording. And it's just so easy. You don't have to remember to do it. You just set it up once, and then every time you film with Swingvision, you're good to go.
Now, where is that in my settings?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll set you up with it after. But we have a guide and we have a YouTube video that explains it now. And so we're starting to push that a lot more. And it's just like, it's been a world of a difference. I mean, once you set that up, like you're not going to have those interruptions. And it just works so well. And then second thing tied to that is low power mode. So you can set up the automation so it automatically turns on low power mode when you're using Swingvision as well, which will help extend the battery life actually. It makes a big difference. So, you know, these are little tips and tricks, but we're trying to do a better job of educating folks about this. But there's a lot of things you can do. And then with overheating, what we've recommended so far is you can buy an umbrella that you can like clip onto your mount or something like that. But we actually have a new mount in development, and that has an integrated sunshade in it. So you won't even have to worry about it, and it's just all right there.
You have it right here. Let me see
Yeah,
it.
and I actually have it right here. So this is our new mount. It's going to go into production next year. It's very similar to the one that we already sell in the app today, but one difference of the many is that we have a sunshade on the back right here. And so you don't need to worry about it. It's just going to protect your phone. Even if you have a larger phone size, it fits kind of any phone size, basically. And so, you know, typically you set this up with the sun kind of shining from this side. And so it'll do a good job and it won't overheat. And we've already been testing it throughout the summer, actually, in some pretty hot environments. And it does a killer job. So that's one of the kind of new additions that we're going to have.
That's
and it
awesome.
solves that problem. Yeah. So really excited about that.
So show me how this works.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll just point out some of the new things here. So we have our sunshade on the back here. So as you can see, it's completely covered my phone. Even if you have like a max size phone, it's going to cover it. Very easy to use. And this sunshade is pretty easy. I'll just show you how you clip it on. There's a little knob right here. And then it just pops right off. So it's pretty easy to store it. And then I really like how this also is so easy to store. It just kind of folds it down in. And this is the same height as kind of the QM1, our previous iteration of the mount. Fits in a standard tennis bag. But you can just kind of open it up and then slide it in your sunshade and you're good to go.
Oh.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And it's nice and simple to set up. We have some branding here for the first time. So this is a prototype version. We're going to have a lot more branding, but you can see we have Swingvision on the cover here of this fork. We're going to have our logo here as well and on the sunshade. So, you know, get some more branding on there. And then we have some markings on the front here, which will help you line up the phone. So these are prototype markings, have been cut with a knife, but they're going to look a lot nicer in the final version. But basically you just kind of tilt down, get that first line lined up, and that's going to be the optimal angle for most courts. And so once you have it lined up on that angle, you can kind of secure the tilt on the right here, and then you get to extend it. And so if you remember the previous version of the mount, you would kind of twist it. This one's a flip lock, so it's just like a tripod. So flip it, open it, secure it. That's pretty much it. And then we can do this again if you want to make it a little bit taller. And then it goes really tall if you want to get it like really tall. But usually for most fences, you just got to do 2 of them. But I'll just go all the way here.
Yeah, this is a tall fence.
This is a tall fence. And then we just kind of slide it in on the top here like this. and then assuming it's like secure, then you kind of get to go, and you can just start recording.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And so that's how it kind of goes. And then the other kind of cool thing I should mention too is that on some courts where the fences are a little bit lower, it's harder to see the far side as clearly, especially that far service line sometimes gets blocked by the net, which can kind of reduce the line calling accuracy for your serves. And so we came up with a fourth extension on the top here. This adds 2 feet above the fence. So even if you're like on a shorter fence, you can stick this on the fence and then you get this higher angle as well, and you can do that. So it's going to basically enable kind of more people to get the best accuracy possible. And the viewing angle from this is so nice. It's like nice and tall. You can see the entire court, and the accuracy is a lot better as well. So,
wow, let's extend this the whole way.
All right, let's do the whole thing.
Let's go.
Yeah, wait, there's one more right here.
There's one more right there.
Yeah. Let's see how high this gets. Yeah, so this thing is, I mean, you can see it's taller than both of us here. This is insane. So you hopefully won't need to do the whole thing, but if you want to, you can. And remember, this all fits in your tennis bag, which is like, up to our waist. So
I could actually just stand here and be a fence.
You could just do that, yeah. That's true. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I can put it on top, I guess, just so you can see it. But, if you did have this on top, let's say I just put it on this bar here, then that's really high up. I mean, that's going to get a really nice angle.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we really tried to just kind of make it better in every way. So you have, a more secure way to extend it. It gets taller on the bottom. It actually can get taller on the top. You got the sunshade. And then the last thing, which is actually a very last minute addition, is that this isn't the only way you can mount it. You can actually mount it on any diamond of the fence with this little knob at the back. So I added this at the very last minute after we had finalized everything. I was trying it out and I felt like it'd be really nice if we just had a simple way to mount it too. And so all you got to do here is just stick it on a diamond like this, and then you're good to go. And that's that simple.
Oh my gosh.
And so for first-time users, this is going to be great. Sometimes you're on a fence where it's just way too tall, and so you can just go ahead and just secure the diamond here. And this prototype doesn't have it, but we're going to have some little threads here, so you can even tie it around and keep it extra secure.
Game changer right there.
Yeah, so this is just going to be the most versatile way to film your footage. You can, do it however you like, basically, and you should use this on pretty much every court. So this is just really so much more versatile than the current version of the mount, and we really tried to kind of address all of the biggest issues and concerns with this iteration. And I mean, we'll have future versions that do even cooler things, but this is kind of like the next iteration that we're going to launch next year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What part of next year is that coming?
Well, we're trying to get production going as fast as we can. As you know, there's been supply chain issues and everything. So, it's hard to say, but we're hoping somewhere around end of Q1 maybe.
Okay.
Is when we're going to plan to start selling it. So it's almost there.
Okay, so March 31st, guys.
There you go. Yeah, you can hold me to it. Yeah.
All right, so what else can we expect to see going forward into 2023 here?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of exciting things in development. I think the 3 main things we're focusing on is, one is making the app just easier to use. So part of that is this new mount, but also part of it is just better user education, simplifying the app interface, making it a lot more intuitive, a lot simpler. And in fact, we're going to be removing features. That's a big thing for us, is just removing things that are not used as much. And that helps us kind of declutter the UI and keep it more focused. And so it might not sound intuitive, but that's actually ends up being something that just kind of like streamlines the whole user experience. So that's one thing. And then second to that, we are going to be adding some new features, which are going to be pretty major, and they're going to make the experience just so much more compelling. And so the very first thing we're launching in January is actually live streaming. And so this is initially going to be for colleges. So we have a couple college teams that are going to be streaming their matches with Swingvision. All of their home matches will be streamed with Swingvision this coming season, which is really exciting. So that's the big vision for us with streaming. We're going to launch it initially for colleges in January. And then separate to that, we're also launching remote coaching. So this will be probably towards the second half of the year, I would say. But we've seen a lot of coaches already using Swingvision, and the way they'll use it is, a student will go play a match somewhere else, they're traveling, they'll send the link of the match to their coach, the coach reviews it, and like I mentioned, you can review a 2-hour match in like 20 minutes.
Right.
And so why don't we just close that loop and allow you to just like book a coach at any point and you can just have them review it for you, and you could just pay through the app with like Apple Pay. And so that's the idea, is to make it that easy. It's like as easy as booking an Uber, basically. So I could play a match, I could go to sleep, I wake up tomorrow morning, somebody across the world has already reviewed it, a high-level ITF coach, let's say, and they've already provided feedback. They have a bunch of notes on my match, and I know exactly what I need to work on for the next game. So that's kind of the experience we're trying to get to, and we're really excited about this because it's going to, first of all, just provide a lot more business to coaches. I mean, you have so many rainy days where like you're not able to do anything. Now you can just sit at home on the couch and coach for several hours, which is incredible. I mean, you just have so much more reach as a coach now. And then for the players, this is going to be so much more affordable because you're not taking up an hour of your coach's time. You're just taking 20 minutes of their time. And so these lessons will be a lot cheaper, which means that a lot more people can access really good coaching. So let's say you're playing in a country where you don't have the best coaching infrastructure. You could just record your match with Swingvision, and someone around the world could, review it for you at an affordable rate. So really excited about that. Yeah, so it's a bold step that we're trying to take, and no one's really done it yet properly, I think, in tennis. So we're really excited about that. I think it's really going to just change the way that we learn the sport and just make it even more accessible. So those are two of the big ones for us. And then, I mean, the last push I'll just mention is electronic line calling. The goal really is to make this ubiquitous in any sort of competition scenario. And so I can't announce who we're working with yet, but we are going to have several tournaments next summer that will be all fully officiated by Swingvision. And so every match in those tournaments, these are going to be junior tournaments and adult leagues, actually, and they're going to be here in the US. And they're going to be all officiated by Swingvision. So it's going to be super exciting. It's going to be a big step up in the experience. And there's going to be no more human line calling in those events. It's just going to be by your phone, basically. So we're really excited about that. And I'm going to try to register for one of those events because I want to try it out myself. But it's going to be really cool. So those are kind of the big things we have for next year.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. I'm so excited for 2023 and Swingvision, my man.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
All right, so the question that I've been dying to ask you is, so Andy Roddick and James Blake are like kind of funders of Swingvision.
Yeah.
Right? So who walked into that locker room in his underwear and said, "Give me some money"?
Oh man. So yes, I was in the locker room with both of them. It's a funny story. Well, so first of all, I met James initially through a friend of mine who played at Santa Clara, actually. So his name's John Lamble. So his physio knew James through some other company that they worked on together. So gave me the introduction. I flew down to San Diego. I met James at a country club. It was all fancy. He was in his shorts. He was so casual. And with James, it's like you can't even tell he's a celebrity. Like he's just like a normal guy, and he's so nice and humble. So it was such a great conversation. And this is when I was still at Tesla, by the way. Oh. Literally, I was like still meeting with Elon and like presenting to him. But here I was with like James, like here's this new thing I want to do. And he was so into it. And he actually thought that Swingvision could help the pros too, actually, because he was saying when he was out there training on the practice court, like they had nothing. And that blew my mind because I just assumed they had some technology, but they don't. They only have technology when they're on center court. Once they leave that center court, they have nothing. If they're playing, out on the road, training at some facility, they usually have no data about their game.
Right.
And so that blew my mind that like, oh wow, so actually we could help the pros. But he was right. He was into it. And so he ended up investing at the very earliest stage when we had just had an idea, basically. Basically just based on our resume. He kind of felt like we were the right team to do it, which was, kudos to James. He had the guts. I don't think I would have if I was in his position. So, I mean, yeah, but he's sharp. He went to Harvard. He knows what he's doing. So he wrote that first check, and then we wanted to get another player on board. So he said, hey, I'm playing this EXO in Texas next month. Why don't you come out? Andy's going to be there. John McEnroe is going to be there. Jim Courier is going to be there. So I went there. I met all of them. I was just hanging out in the locker room all day. And I got to pitch to all of them, actually, which was a really fun experience. But
did you get 4 checks that day?
Unfortunately, I did not. It was a swing and a miss on a couple of those. Okay. Yeah, John wasn't interested at all. He probably isn't a fan of Hawkeye or line calling in general.
You cannot be serious.
Yeah, exactly. That was his reaction, right? So yeah, he didn't want anything to do with it. Jim, actually, I had a great conversation with him. We chatted for about an hour, and he was asking me all kinds of questions and like where this could go. And I mean, he's such a sweet guy, and I'm a huge fan of him and his commentary and everything. But it was awesome meeting him. But he ended up passing a week later. With Andy, I also had a really great conversation with him. We went into just like so many questions. I could tell that he was a really avid investor out of the whole group. Like he does a lot of real estate investing, but he's also invested in some startups and technology companies actually. So I could just tell from his questions, like he knew exactly what to ask me, I was very just impressed by his knowledge of that space. And then it was really funny, like, I always say, I think this is what sold it. I don't think it actually is, but at the end of the night, he couldn't find his phone. His phone was like somewhere in the locker room and he was panicking because he had to fly back to North Carolina. And so James tried to call it, but it's not ringing. It was on silent, like our phones are right now. And so I just was like instantly like whipped out my laptop and I was like, hey, if you log into iCloud, I can play a sound on your phone, even if it's on silent. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, what is this tech wizardry, right? But like for me, it's like, I know how to do this stuff. Like I'm an engineer. So I logged into his iCloud. I see like Brooklyn Decker's iPhone. Like it's insane. I see all of his devices and it says Andy's iPhone. I click on it, play the sound. It plays the sound. And it's like somewhere in the locker room in the corner. And then he finds it and he's like so thankful. And he walks up to me. He's like, are you in Venmo? I'll Venmo you $50K right now. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't actually Venmo us, but a couple of weeks later, he did some more diligence, thought about it, and then ended up investing. But I'm sure that helped. So,
oh, you found this phone, you got money. There
yeah,
you go.
So, yeah, I'm sure it didn't hurt, right? So that was a pretty funny story. But yeah, and it all started in the locker room, and those two were really kind of the first ones who believed in us. And, we didn't raise a ton of money by Silicon Valley standards, but it was enough to get us going. And we just kind of went from there and didn't look back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the
Thank
company. And you've come a long way, and there's a longer road ahead.
Yes,
and I see a very successful road for you there.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for having me. It's a good time.
Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.